It started with a car crash and ended with a body in a freezer. But what happened in between will blow your mind. In early 2022, a string of mysterious arrests shook the quiet streets of Lincoln Heights, a middle-class neighborhood just outside of Chicago. One by one, members of a high-level drug trafficking ring were getting picked off. No warning, no leaks, just gone, vanished, arrested, and none of them saw it coming. This is a story of how 5 ruthless dealers built an empire and how it all unraveled faster than anyone imagined. It wasn't just street-level drug deals. These guys were professionals. They called themselves a shadow ring, operating behind layers of fake identities, burner phones, and shell companies. Marcos Ghost Velasquez, the silent mastermind, never caught on camera. Jules Knox, the enforcer, former MMA fighter, with a trail of unpaid hospital bills behind him. Deshaun Blink Carter, getaway driver and logistics, could vanish a car in 30 seconds flat. Melina Rojas, the cleaner, accountant by day, launder by night. Ray Stacks Delgado, the face. Flashy, cocky, but smart. Too smart. By 2021, the Shadow Ring was moving $3 million a month in coke, fentanyl, and oxy across the Midwest. No cops on their tail. No snitches. They thought they were untouchable. They weren't. It started with a freak car accident. March 14, 2022, Deshaun Blink Carter crashes his Dodge Charger on I-55. The cops show up to a totaled vehicle and $300,000 worth of fentanyl in a hidden compartment. Blink swears he's just a driver. No names, no deals. But within 24 hours, he's in a federal holding cell, surrounded by lawyers, agents, and one strange request. You want me to wear a wire? 2 days later, Blink disappears from public record. Gone. Witness protection? Or something else? 3 weeks later, April 2nd, Jules Knox gets into a bar fight in Aurora. Not unusual for him, until cops bust in with a warrant. They find 2 guns, $50,000 in cash, and a flash drive full of surveillance videos. Ones that should have been private. Footage from their safe house. Warehouse. Drop locations. Someone was watching them. The feds don't arrest them. They wait. 3 days later, Jules gets a call from Ghost. He doesn't show up. Next morning, Jules' truck is found abandoned under the Halstead Bridge. Blood on the steering wheel. No Jules. To this day, no body found. Melina was careful. Everything clean. Bank records spotless. She handled the money like a surgeon. So when her condo was raided in early May, it shocked everyone. The DA didn't even knock. They came in with riot shields. They found ledgers, Bitcoin wallets, offshore accounts. But the biggest find? A burner phone with text threads from Blink. He had flipped. Melina didn't resist arrest. She didn't say a word. But her one phone call raised alarms. She called Marcos Velasquez and said just 3 words. They know everything. That was the last time anyone heard from her. Marcos Ghost Velasquez was a ghost for a reason. No social media. No fingerprints. Every safe house rented through shell corporations. But when his crew started dropping, he vanished. Until July 9th, when cops raided a warehouse in Calumet City and found something they didn't expect. A walk-in freezer. Inside, the frozen zip-tied body of Jules Knox. And taped to the chest, a burner phone. On it, a 30-second video. Grainy, static-filled. It shows Marcos Velasquez, face uncovered, looking straight into the lens. This is what happens to snitches. The footage ends with a single gunshot. Ray Delgado was the last man standing. He'd gone underground fast, moved into a high-rise under a fake name, shut off his socials, cut contact with everyone. But someone was feeding the feds every move. On August 1st, agents arrested him in a parking garage with $2.4 million in cash and a duffel bag full of burner phones. He laughed as they cuffed him. You think I don't know who flipped? But that confidence evaporated in court, because sitting in the back of the courtroom, wearing a suit and federal witness badge, was Melina Rojas. She flipped, and she wasn't the only one. Remember the first arrest? Blink. Turns out he flipped, but so did Melina. And Jules? He never flipped. The burner phone on his chest? A setup. Someone wanted the crew to think Jules turned snitch, so they'd let their guard down. Someone inside. Someone smart enough to pit them against each other and stay untouched. 3 days after Ray's arrest, police discovered a hidden camera inside Marcos's abandoned penthouse. The camera had motion-triggered recording. It captured everything. And on the final clip, time-stamped 2 weeks before Marcos vanished, there's a knock at his door. He answers. Standing in the hallway is a woman, blonde, mid-30s, black hoodie. She leans in and says, "You should have never trusted me, Marcos." It was Melina. Then the feed cuts out. Those chilling words, spoken by Melina Rojas, were captured on a hidden motion-triggered camera in Marcos Velasquez's penthouse just 2 weeks before he vanished. The last known footage of him alive. But here's the thing. Melina was already in custody. Or at least, that's what the paperwork said. So, who was the woman in the video? Was it pre-recorded? A deepfake? Or was the entire arrest staged? The FBI thought they had it all wrapped up. But everything they knew was about to unravel. Agents went back to review Melina's transfer logs from the day she was supposedly arrested. That's when they found it. A 48-hour gap. Between May 4th at 6:30 p.m. and May 6th at 6:15 p.m., there were no official movements, no records of her location, just a temporary reassignment notice signed by someone at the DOJ. Only problem? That signature was fake. So where was Melina during those missing 2 days? The answer was buried in footage from a gas station outside Joliet. At 2:13 a.m. on May 5th, a black SUV pulled in. A woman stepped out. Melina, alone, wearing a black hoodie, buying bleach and duct tape. By August, Ray Delgado was in federal custody, and Marcos Ghost Velasquez was presumed dead. But new files leaked from inside the FBI pointed to a sixth name, someone never mentioned in court, never brought up in interrogation. Kira Holden, an ex-DEA analyst. Quiet, brilliant, fired in 2019 for accessing SEAL cartel case files without permission. The leak included a folder titled Project Midas. Inside, diagrams of Shadow Ring's entire network, months before any arrests took place. And at the center of it all, Melina's face, not as a launderer, as a handler. FBI agent Calloway, the man in charge of the Shadow Ring case, suddenly requested reassignment. The reason? Operational compromise. That's government speak for someone got too close. Then came the real twist. During a forensic audit of Ray Delgado's seized burner phones, agents uncovered a message that had been missed the first time. Encrypted, buried under layers of code. Once decrypted, it read, Project Midas is live. Ghost will fall. Ray next. Wipe Jules. Let Blink slip. I'll clean the rest. Signed, Kach, Kira Holden. But the kicker? That message was sent 7 months before the first arrest. In late September 2022, a cold case team reviewing seized electronics from the Shadow Ring found something else. A VHS tape labeled in Sharpie. Babysitter_15.mov. It seemed unrelated. But what they saw on that tape chilled them to their core. It showed a girl, no older than 15, locked in a basement, camera fixed on her face. And standing behind the camera? Melina. You could hear her voice. You're gonna help us now, sweetie. Don't cry. No one's coming. The video ends. That girl was never identified. But forensic techs traced the background. The same warehouse where Jules' body was found. Suddenly, the drug ring wasn't just about drugs. It was about trafficking. With Melina under protective custody, or so they thought, and Marcos presumed dead, the feds began looking deeper into Kira Holden. But here's the shocker. There was no trace of her. No bank records. No phone activity. No last known address. She had vanished in 2019 and left nothing behind. Until October 17th. A mail carrier reported a package left outside FBI headquarters in Chicago. Inside, a USB drive, a burner phone, and a single note. She's not who you think she is. The USB contained surveillance video, gritty, time-stamped, and real, Footage from a hidden camera inside the Fed's own evidence room. Someone had been inside after hours, pulling files, swapping SIM cards, removing tape evidence. The woman in the footage wore gloves and a hoodie, but when she turned to look at the camera briefly, it wasn't Melina, it wasn't Kira, it was someone else entirely. A new player, early 30s, piercing blue eyes, tattoo of a chess piece behind her ear. Unknown, untraceable. The burner phone found in the package rang that night. Once, an agent picked up. The voice on the other end was female. Calm, unshaken. You still think Marcos was a boss? Click. The phone went dead. The next day, Ray Delgado was found unresponsive in his cell. Poison. No fingerprints. No trace. But written on the wall in toothpaste, above the bunk, Midas still lives. You still think Marcos was a boss? That voice still echoed in Agent Delaney's mind. Cold, calm, female, but not Melina, not Kira Holden. Someone else. And now, Ray Stacks Delgado, last known surviving member of the Shadow Ring, was dead, poisoned in federal custody. Toothpaste writing on the wall. Midas still lives. The Shadow Ring wasn't just a cartel. It was a prototype. 2 days after Delgado's death, a leak from inside the Bureau sent shockwaves through the entire intelligence community. It was a 28-page file. Header: Operation Midas Genesis Protocol. Classified. Top clearance. The summary? Project Midas is a government-adjacent behavioral control experiment leveraging synthetic narcotics, targeted blackmail, and embedded field assets within organized crime. Funded and observed by private contractors under shell corporations. Purpose: study influence patterns, corruption thresholds, and civilian compliance in urban zones. Translation: the Shadow Ring was never independent. It was part of a controlled operation, one that spiraled out of control. And at the center of this, Melina Rojas, initially profiled as a cleaner of the Shadow Ring, an accountant with laundering experience. Melina's past was scrubbed clean, but through deeper tracing of her offshore accounts, agents found a name buried in the shell layers. Marla S. Cross-reference with employment records. Marla Sandino, cyber behavior analyst for Synergex Group, a federal contractor involved in psychological operations. She was never just a money launderer. She was running simulations using real lives. Meanwhile, facial recognition on the woman seen in the evidence room, chest piece tattoo behind her ear, came back with match. Cameron Vale, age 34, former NSA asset, vanished in 2018, discharged for unapproved surveillance activities on U.S. oil, never found, assumed to be off-grid. Now she was back, on camera, inside FBI facilities, leaving no trace. Some agents believed she was the real Kira Holden. Others suspected she was a watchdog, sent to shut down Midas when it got too loud. Whoever she was one step ahead of everyone. And then came the final puzzle piece. October 25th, 7:11 a.m. A plain package appeared on Special Agent Delaney's doorstep. No return address. Just a USB drive and a chess piece. The Queen. Inside the USB, a video. Date stamped. 1 year ago. Surveillance feed from an undisclosed facility. A large dark room. Metal table. 2 women sitting across from each other. One was Melina. The other, Cameron Vale. Their conversation was muffled, but one phrase came through clear. The Shadow Ring isn't a game. It's the test run. Melina nodded. And Marcos, disposable. Ray, trained, then sacrificed. And the kid, still under observation. If he passes, we upgrade. That final reference, the kid, sent the Bureau into overdrive. They searched all known connections of the Shadow Ring for minors or recent disappearances, but one name kept surfacing. Dante Price, 19 years old, went missing in 2020. No known ties to the crew, but he was last seen in the same warehouse district where Jules Knox's body was found. Dante was an orphan, and according to foster records, his caseworker in 2017 was Marla Sandino. FBI analysts now believe Dante Price was groomed from a young age, possibly raised inside the Midas system, monitored, controlled, trained, the real experiment. Melina wasn't just laundering money. She was building compliance models. Cameron Vale? She wasn't shutting it down. She was measuring the results. But the final horror? A journal recovered from Melina's condo contained hand-sketched floor plans and scribbled notations that read, Shadow Ring equals Stage 1. Next location, Houston or Atlanta. Target group, 300 units. Embedded handlers trained. Kid leads. The last line of the journal reads, if this goes public, blame the cartel. Burn Marcos. Frame Jules. Flip Blink. Kill Ray. Disappear me. Melina planned everything, and she's still missing. On October 28th, an explosion rocked a safe house in Baltimore known to be one of Cameron Vale's surveillance nests. Inside, they found melted hard drives and a queen chess piece. DNA on the scene? Dante Price. Alive. 2 weeks after the Baltimore safe house explosion, a blackout hits East Houston. Within minutes, for surveillance drones operated by the FBI crash within a 10-block radius. When power returns, just 14 minutes later, 3 government-protected witnesses under relocation are missing, all tied to Project Midas. Spray painted on the inside of one safe house wall. Observe the pawns. Promote the queen. No forced entry. No alarms triggered. A confidential report from a whistleblower inside Synergex reveals the chilling next phase of Project Midas. Urban-scale compliance testing. Control chaos. Create a problem. Monitor solutions. Measure obedience. Houston was one of 2 proposed test beds. The other? Atlanta. The plan? 300 test subjects, low-income individuals, veterans, parolees, placed under simulated social pressure and narcotics manipulation. They wouldn't even know they were being tested. Only one would be groomed to lead. The name listed on the simulation model? Dante Price. Delaney's team pulls classified files from Melina's scrubbed Synergex archive. Dante's photo is on the cover of a document labeled Subject Delta 7, Adaptive Leadership Prototype. Inside, monitored since age 11, multiple stage escapes from foster care, behavioral notes, high resilience, early dissociative traits, loyalty to female authority figures. A final annotation. Phase 3 initiated upon Ray's termination. Subject moved to Site Echo. Activation pending. But Site Echo doesn't appear on any federal maps. Only one note references it. Echo equals external control hub, Omega. At 2:17 a.m., security footage from a closed juvenile facility shows a masked woman entering the premises. Facial recognition confirms it. Cameron Vale. She disables security. Walks out with 3 unidentified teenagers. One has a distinct scar on his jaw, matching early photos of Dante Price. A van picks him up. Plate traces back to a dummy shell company. Anal Systems, a subsidiary of Synergex. 3 hours later, that facility burns to ground. FBI forensic linguists decode a message embedded in the burned hard drives from the Baltimore explosion. Its synthetic voice scrambled, but the message is clear. Stage 2 begins. Atlanta is noise. Houston is signal. The test subjects will obey. The Queen ascends. Attached is a video clip. Cameron, in a dim room, sitting across from Melina Rojas. Alive. Melina, you'll control the handlers? Cameron, already in place. Melina and Dante? Cameron, he still believes in you. That's enough. Delaney revisits Dante's old foster files. Handwritten notes by Marla Sandino. A recurring symbol appears on multiple pages. The Queen. She had been marking him all along. Delaney realizes too late. Cameron and Melina weren't enemies. They were collaborators. Shadow Ring wasn't the cartel. It was a sandbox. Midas is the system. At a downtown emergency shelter, a blackout hits. Moments later, 47 people inside begin seizing. All had taken government-distributed supplements that week. Across the street, a black SUV idles. Inside, a laptop displays biometric data streaming live. On the screen, a name appears. Delta 7, adaptive threshold met. Dante Price steps out of the SUV. Expression unreadable. A chest piece tattoo, the pawn, freshly inked behind his ear. He walks toward the shelter. A restricted access report is delivered to a black site under CIA jurisdiction. Stamped, top secret, authorized eyes only. Subject line, ghost unit activation. Inside, a dossier containing 10 names. All former foster youths. All declared missing between 2012 and 2021. All presumed dead. Each one now reappears on infrared drone footage, alive, armed, and moving with military precision across Houston, Atlanta, and St. Louis. One name is circled in red ink. Dante Price, Ghost Zero. An urgent internal exchange between FBI agent Delaney and Deputy Director Kessler. Delaney, these aren't sleeper agents. They're engineered operatives. Midas wasn't just behavioral control, it was tactical conditioning. Kessler, we buried Ghost Unit in 2014. It failed. Delaney, no. We thought it failed. They just went underground. Midas was Phase 2. Flashback recovered from a 2022 surveillance wiretap in Bogota. Melina's voice. Compliance is about choice illusion. Give them options, none of which are freedom. Give them leaders they think they chose. That's the ghost model. Cameron Vale's reply. And if one of them breaks pattern, Melina, then the others eliminate him. Ghosts correct ghosts. November 9th, 1:34 a.m. Agent Delaney's team raids an abandoned warehouse tied to Synergex. What they find shocks even seasoned analysts. A makeshift barracks, 12 cots, each with medical-grade 4 systems. Audio recordings of simulated hostage scenarios, gunfire, and emotional abuse played on loop. Walls covered in photos of children from state care agencies. A whiteboard. Obey. Adapt. Lead. Eliminate. Underlined. Dante equals gamma trigger. In the center of the room. A pawn chess piece. Broken in half. Project Midas. Mirror protocol. Delaney uncovers a deeper layer within the Genesis protocol files. The mirror protocol. A contingency for failed compliance subjects. If a ghost begins to question the system, mirror them. Feed them a reflection. Turn them into their own handler. Translation? Dante Price may no longer be the subject. He may be the next architect. An anonymous tip sends encrypted footage to several federal inboxes. Date stamped just hours ago. The video shows Dante in a dark room, facing someone off camera. Unknown voice. Do you understand your next objective? Dante, quiet. Yes. Unknown. You're not the pawn anymore. Dante nods. Opens his palm. A queen chess piece rests inside. The feed cuts to static. Overlay maps recover from Cameron Vale's last data burst point to 3 cities marked in red. Detroit, New Orleans, San Diego, labeled Ghost Migration Routes. Phase 3, Civil Trials. Each site is tied to community rehab programs funded by Synergex Group. November 11th, 3:14 a.m. Delaney receives a voicemail from an untraceable number. The voice is distorted, but clear. You never understood the game, Agent. Midas isn't just control. It's evolution. And the ghosts, they're already among you. Click. In Delaney's inbox that morning, a package. No return address. Inside, a chessboard. Only one piece remains. The king. An off-book meeting is held deep in the basement of the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit. No official record. No names. Only one document on the table. Project Midas, Stage Omega. In red ink. The king must fall. The queen piece sent to Agent Delaney confirmed what the Bureau feared. Melina Rojas wasn't the boss. She was the architect, but not the origin. The king, the mastermind who funded the original Ghost Unit, who used cartel networks, foster systems, behavioral labs, and federal blind spots to create a controllable rebellion. The Bureau cross-referenced all Synergex board members, black budget contractors, and former CIA heads. One name surfaced repeatedly. Everett Langston, 63. Former director of DARPA Behavioral Projects. declared dead in a plane crash over the Atlantic in 2015. But he never died. A whistleblower surfaces from inside Synergex. Former systems engineer Thomas Ellison, now in witness protection. His statement: Langston faked his death to go off-grid. He didn't want to direct the project. He wanted to become it. He built Midas to create his own army, one invisible, loyal, programmable. Ellison provides coordinates to a remote site in northern Nevada, codenamed The Keep. Surveillance reveals a buried bunker under a decommissioned radar array. No visible guards. No movement. Until thermal imaging shows one subject inside. Not Langston. Dante Price. Hooked to machines. Monitored. Alone. A blood sample taken from the explosion site in Baltimore, where Dante's DNA was found, didn't just confirm he was alive. It revealed a match to genetic editing markers patented by Langston in 2011 under a shell biotech firm. Dante wasn't just trained. He was modified. November 15th, 2:11 a.m. An explosion rocks the Synergex East Coast server farm in Wilmington, Delaware. 5 dead. No survivors. Security footage is scrubbed. But one image survives from a backup feed. Cameron Vale. Chest tattoo glowing under infrared. She's holding a satchel. Behind her, spray painted on the wall, the king never dies in the middle game, only in the end. November 16th, unlisted safe house, D.C. Agent Delaney receives a call from a burner phone, a voice he hasn't heard since this started. Melina. He was never hiding. He was watching. The king isn't a man anymore. Delaney. He's an idea. And it's already seated in every city on that list. If you want to stop him, find the boy. Not Dante. The other one. Who is the other subject? Records trace from Marla Sandino's. Logs point to a name buried in a child services transfer. Subject Omega 9. Alias Noel Carver 18. Transferred 12 times. Last seen at a juvenile camp in Colorado 3 years ago, where he went after. Unknown, but his file was accessed 2 days before the Langston leak by a Synergex IP address. Encrypted audio file, uploaded anonymously, distributed to federal Dropbox. Voice, calm, smooth, older male. Langston voice. You think this is about crime, control, drugs, or power. It's not. It's about proving that freedom is fiction. Give me 1 generation, and I'll shape the next 10. You don't stop kings, Agent Delaney. You replace them. End of file. Attached image. A chessboard. The king piece is missing. The last known location of Noel Carver. Subject Omega 9. The juvenile camp he vanished from burned down in 2021. Official cause: faulty electrical panel. Unofficially, the only 2 survivors never spoke again. One has since disappeared. The other is now institutionalized. Name redacted, but a drone sweep over the old site reveals something new. A symbol scorched into the concrete below the rubble. Not a chess piece. A crown. Simple. Childlike. Drawn in what appears to be blood. Synergex whistleblower Thomas Ellison uploads a new file. Project Midas. Child profiles. Stage for C/Omega. Of the 300 original youth profiles used in behavioral modeling simulations, only one was ever marked irregular/unclassified. Omega 9. Alias Noel. Traits: high empathy, rapid neuroplasticity, nonverbal until age 9. Prediction model: unstable, unquantifiable, non-compliant. Langston's note attached: he is the variable I cannot replicate. The one piece not bound to the board. Do not train. Do not restrain. Observe only. An abandoned elementary school in Cheyenne, Wyoming is found with signs of squatting. In a locked storage room, investigators find a rusted mattress. Sketches pinned to walls. Chess pieces melting. Strings between names like Jules, Blink, Marla, and Delaney. One sketch in bold charcoal. A faceless boy wearing a crown. On the back, I remember the game, but not my name. DNA on the paper matches Noel Carver. But here's the twist. The same paper contained partial fingerprints matching Cameron Vale. From a hidden server tagged Langston_backflow. Child's voice. They told me stories were lies. That people forget. That names are cages. But I dream in code. I dream in faces. I don't remember who I was, but I know who watched me sleep. Older woman's voice. Presume Melina. Do you know who you are now? Child. I'm the one they couldn't finish. Psychological analysts reviewing the tapes believe Omega. 9 was never meant to lead. He was Langston's error. He showed resistance not just to behavioral control, but to identity implantation. They built a system to turn people into pieces, but he refused to play. Some now believe that Noel Carver is not the next king. He is the board reset. November 19th, surveillance captures Cameron Vale at Transit Hub in Omaha. She leaves behind a duffel bag in a locker. Inside, a burner phone, a child's crown made of twine, a note. He remembers the sound of water. He always runs west. Following Cameron's clue, seismic activity records trace irregular movement near the Shoshone River Canyon, Wyoming. A cave system nearby shows signs of human passage. In one chamber, a journal page, written in child's handwriting, smudged. They called me Omega because I was last, but I'm the first who saw the whole game, and I'm not playing anymore. In an undisclosed location, possibly underground, Noel stands alone. He faces a wall of mirrors. In each reflection, he wears a different name tag. Ray, Jules, Dante, Marla, Cameron. He removes them all, one by one. He whispers, I am the name they erased. Now I'm writing my own. Then he pulls out a piece. Not a queen, not a king. A blank pawn painted black, and drops it in water. Fade to black. At 4:41 a.m., local rescue drones responding to a seismic disturbance near the Shoshone River Canyon spotted a silhouette on the riverbank, barefoot, wrapped in a silver thermal sheet, crown of twine in hand. Noel Carver. He offered no name, no resistance. When asked how he got there, he whispered, I followed the voice through water. His vitals? Normal. Cognitive tests? Above average. But the most unsettling part? His pulse dropped to near zero during a 13-minute silent stare at chessboard in the interview room. This pattern matches archive files from Synergex's defunct Project Orpheus, a side project to Midas. Orpheus used water submersion, dream suggestion, and sensory deprivation to test memory overwrite. Langston once called it a backdoor into the subconscious, the sleeper code. In a hidden pocket of Synergex servers, digital archaeologists recovered the memory wall simulation logs, used to test mental stability in high-threat assets. Subjects were shown rapid sequences of images, faces, code words, water, fire, mothers, cages. Every subject broke in under 6 minutes, except one. Subject 09, Noel Carver. Result, stared into camera. Drew crown, bit off own tongue. Survived. Recovered video from a Colorado warehouse, believed to be one of Langston's black sites, showed something new. Noel was not alone. A second child, older, shaved head, pale, name tag, Delta. The two sat silently at a table. Between them, a single chess piece, a rook. The child labeled Delta looked directly into the camera and said, He's the mind. I'm the hand. No record of Delta exists in Midas logs. On November 24th, a woman matching Cameron Vale's appearance broke into a data vault beneath a decommissioned NSA satellite station in Utah. She left behind an encrypted USB, a chessboard with the words "Last Game" carved into it, a water-stained page. Noel is no longer the pawn. He is the pen. He writes now. Inside the USB, a sound file, just water dripping. But when slowed by 2,000%, a voice emerges. It's Langston. They'll call him broken. They'll medicate the truth. But the boy wrote his own name, and it wasn't the one I gave him. Back in D.C., Agent Delaney receives an anonymous drop, a VHS tape labeled Delta/Noel, split game, static, then two young voices, one laughing, one crying. then a phrase in perfect sync, "We are the control group," followed by a flickering screen with the words, "Experiment expands. Phase V, city seating." Map overlay appears. Targets: Houston, Atlanta, Seattle, Detroit, Oakland, each marked with red crowns. Inside a sterile hospital room, Noel Carver sits on the floor, drawing in charcoal. A nurse asks, "What's that, honey?" He points to the wall. A name written in crooked, watercolored letters. Jonah Vale. "It was my real name," he says, "before they took it." Cut to black. The boy who forgot who he was has remembered. But why did he take Cameron's surname? And what happened to Delta? December 1st. A decrypted file from Synergex's deepest vault was leaked to 3 major media outlets under the title, "Delta's a One, the Weaponized Child." Key contents included brain scans showing synthetic memory layering, training logs marked phase shift conditioning, a quote from Langston himself. Delta isn't meant to pass. He's meant to reset the game. Subject's true name, unknown. Alias, Delta. Projected deployment, December 18th, 2025. Location, unknown. FBI intelligence now confirms that all 5 cities marked with red crowns on the city seating overlay are Stage 2 activation zones. Each one shares the following: a Synergex-funded trauma therapy clinic, at least one unsolved case involving a missing child since 2019, surges in local synthetic opioid variants, matching Midas chemical signatures, a recurring graffiti tag, "The Rook watches." But in Atlanta, something different happened. A child walked into a precinct barefoot, carrying a pawn chess piece. She said, "He told me to tell you he's almost awake. Delta's almost here." Formerly known as Noel Carver, the boy, now identified as Jonah Vale, has become the Bureau's most closely guarded subject. His drawings, seemingly erratic, are now being treated as predictive data. One sketch showed a high-rise in Seattle days before suspicious fire. Another showed a dark figure with stitched lips, looming over children in rows. The word written beneath, "The Archivist." Analysts believe this may be Langston, or whoever replaced him in Phase 2. Jonah refuses direct interviews, but when given a chessboard, he flipped it over and wrote, "The king was never in play." Delaney now faces a race against time. Cameron Vale has vanished again, this time after uploading a corrupted binary packet labeled, "For Delta's eyes only." Inside it was a visual cipher. When decrypted, it revealed a phrase: "The rook has turned. The queen has fallen. The Delta rises now." Internal Bureau logs suggest someone inside the FBI has activated Phase 5, Delaney's suspect's assistant Director Briggs, but proving it could cost him everything. And then came the envelope. No return address. Inside, a single photograph. 3 children, standing in an underground facility, each holding a chess piece. Jonah, the pawn. Unknown girl, the bishop. Delta, holding a knight. Scrawled on the back, "The board was never yours." December 17th, 11:59 p.m. Houston. CCTV across 6 city blocks flickers to black. A lone boy is seen walking barefoot down the middle of the street. The lights pulse once. He lifts his hand, and every traffic light in the district turns red. Final words on the screen. Activation commenced. Houston, Texas. Blackout Zone Delta. 12 square blocks. No power. No cameras. No signal. Locals called it the blink. Law enforcement called it unreachable. But someone had access. A live stream appeared briefly on a private bureau channel, tagged red signal/phase V/initiated. What it showed: rows of children seated in silence, a man with a stitched mouth walking between them, a voiceover. The experiment expands. Compliance through chaos. The knight makes the first move. The knight? Delta, a former Synergex whistleblower, known only as Zero Rung. Release redacted pages of the Knight Protocol Manual to the Guardian. Key revelations. Delta is not alone. He's part of a triad. The Knight, the Bishop, and the Rook. They were raised in parallel pods, each with tailored conditioning. Knight, tactical violence under moral pretense. Bishop, emotional persuasion and psychological dominance. Rook, surveillance, integration, and disruption. Purpose, to infiltrate cities, sway behavior, and test mass obedience thresholds. One chilling line. If Knight reaches 90% threshold, Phase 6 initiates. Simulated insurrection. Agent Delaney received an anonymous call at 3:03 a.m. Voice modulated. Message short. Cameron was never queen. She was just the timer. You want the truth? Look beneath Capitol Hill, sublevel R. Delaney traced a number. It pinged once. From Atlanta, outside a Synergex research wing. Already in flames. At a secure psych facility in Quantico, Jonah Vale woke from sleep screaming. Don't let the bishop speak. She unravels the will. He drew a chessboard again. But this time, every square was red. At the center, a black hole, labeled the red signal to reset. A corrupted video file hit underground forums. The archivist, long thought to be Langston, now appears altered, heavily distorted. But the voice is unmistakable. The shadow ring was a box. You only saw shadows. Project Midas was never about drugs or money. It was about obedience. Phase 5 will reveal the willing. Phase 6 will reward the ruthless. Then, one final flash frame. Initiate red signal / January 1st, 2026. Washington, D.C., sublevel R, Capitol Hill. Special Agent Delaney moved through the subterranean corridors beneath Capitol Hill. No badge scans, no cameras, no maps. Just whispers. And at the end of the passage, a room, red lit. At its center, a conference table with 6 leather chairs. Only 2 were occupied. A man with no face, just mirror goggles and a voice that hummed like static. The bishop. And a woman with auburn curls, scars across her palms, and a locket hanging from her wrist. Angela Reed. Angela, missing since 2020. Thought dead, now seated in silence. Willing. Leaked voice files from a hacked Synergex channel revealed a full psychological profile. Codename, the bishop. Real identity, redacted. Specialty, neuro-linguistic manipulation, forced empathy triggers, suicidal suggestion modeling. Her voice could hijack a person's moral code. Her quote, captured on file. Most people don't need convincing to obey. They just need to believe they chose it. The bishop now operates as Phase VI's behavioral trigger, embedded among influencers, therapists, and clergy. Her reach? Global. Recovered DNA from the Capitol bunker matches Angela 100%. Files from her original disappearance show signs of falsification. Her journal, found in sublevel R. I was chosen because I survived, not because I wanted to. They needed someone broken enough to obey, and strong enough to lead the others. On her wrist, a tattoo of a red pawn. Fresh. A flash drive recovered from the Atlanta fire contained a list titled, Willing, Phase 6 / immunity roster. 122 names. Government agents, therapists, tech execs, influencers, all flagged for prior trauma, financial leverage, high compliance under fear stimuli. 3 names stood out. Cameron Vale, status, operational. Angela Reed, status, embedded. Dante Price, status, upgraded. A signal hijacked a local New York feed for exactly 66 seconds. The screen, static then a chessboard, half the pieces blood red. A voice. We don't take power. We awaken it in those who crave it. The ones who follow orders without question. They're not victims. They're the new architects. Final message. Phase 6 active. November 8th, 2:44 AMA signal ping from an inactive satellite over Eastern Europe. It uploaded a single burst of encrypted data, decoded by an NSA backchannel flagged M-alpha. The payload? A list of 6 names. No first names. Just initials. Just code words. Header. Council directive. Phase 7 activation. Agent Delaney barely had time to process it. Less than an hour later, 2 of the names were dead. one in a car crash in Prague, another from a sudden heart attack in Toronto. Both had traces of Midas tech inside their implants. Meanwhile, Dante Price resurfaced, but this time not as a hunted. He was walking into secure sites, giving information, demanding meetings, and above all, he wanted one person, Cameron Vale. Dante's demand led to an underground data vault in Zurich. He didn't break in, he was allowed in. Inside, Delaney Angela Reed and a small strike team watched as he accessed a private chamber labeled Echo Instance, D. Price, Host 07. They witnessed the unthinkable, a series of digital brains mapped, reconstructed, and weaponized. Each file contained personalities, fears, decisions. One of them bore a twisted version of Dante himself. But worse, an older folder. Host 01, Marcos. Host 03, Kira. Host 04, Blink. It was never just drugs. Midas was digitizing behavior, recreating minds. Melina Rojas, just a field architect. Cameron Vale, just a lab warden. The real architects? The council. And they were about to go silent. Dante Price, Ghost, finally confronted Cameron. In a sterile white corridor beneath an abandoned biotech lab in Atlanta, she told him the truth. You're not a survivor, Dante. You're a stitch. His memories, pieces of every test subject. His instincts, programmed reactions. His trauma, real, but never as alone. He wasn't chosen. He was assembled. Delaney tried to stop the confrontation, but she was too late. Cameron handed Dante a key card and walked into the shadows, saying, "Every ghost needs to choose who they haunt." Delaney and Angela returned to D.C., only to find Synergex had gone public with a new product. MindWell, a biometric wellness app. It used sentiment tracking, personalized stimuli, and targeted ads. It reads your voice, adjusted your feed. It was Project Midas, rebranded, refined, released, and behind it, 3 of the 6 council members. The others were presumed dead. But that didn't matter anymore. The experiment was now global. Cameron Vale vanished. Melina was found comatose, kept alive in a private Swiss hospital. Her room? Guarded. Her brain? Still active. And Dante? He walked into the sea outside Savannah, left behind his last note. If I was never real, maybe I never die. After the smoke, 2028. A child in Tokyo takes a breath test. His results go to a behavioral algorithm. A woman in Sao Paulo changes her opinion on an election after meditation app recommends a focus article. In a quiet cabin in Vermont, Agent Delaney lights a fire. She gets a call. No name, just one phrase. Ghost has been seen. He's not alone. She looks at the wall. Photos of 6 children in a foster home, all born between 2000 and 2004. Each one was part of the early test phase. One still missing. Case file, Echo 08. Alias, Silva. The game was never about winning. It was about playing forever. The end.